President Trump striking a calmer tone on China, and the bears are backing off.
I have a great relationship with President Xi. He's a very tough man. He's a very smart man. He's a great leader for their country. He's a great leader. And I have a great relationship with him. I think we'll get it set. I know what happened. I really understand what happened. And I'm not even saying he's wrong. But then we met him with something much tougher than what he did to us.
Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Brenberg, along with my co-host Jonathan Hoenig, Dagan McDowell, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the hour, Michael Lee strategy founder, Michael Lee. Welcome, everybody. Well, just days after warning of new tariffs and threatening to cancel his next meeting with President Xi, President Trump took to Truth Social, writing, "Don't worry about China. It'll all be fine." That was enough to bring back the bulls after sharp stock declines on Friday and a weekend that saw nearly $20 billion in crypto wiped out. The White House says the new 100% tariff on China imports will still take effect in November, but Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the president's goal isn't confrontation.
We are taking sound measures to right this problem, and we don't want to have to flex and show the Chinese that we, as President Trump says, we do have more cards, whether it's on software, whether it's on minerals, whether it's on financial services.
Okay, a little back and forth between last Friday and today. What do you make of it, Michael?
Yeah, so, first, as an investor, every single sell-off from a trade-related headline as it comes to President Trump has been a buying opportunity. Going back 7 years, every single one of them. I bought some Ethereum on Friday night because there was absolute total crypto destruction to a lot of levered longs on Friday nights. Already seeing a little nice healthy return off of that bounce. But look, President Trump always tries to negotiate from a position of strength. With that chaos, with maximum chaos, you create maximum leverage. And so this is the world that he lives in. And after that carnage starts happening and saying, I'm going to do this tariff and that tariff and this tariff, you have buttons to push as it pertains to China, where the flip side is China has buttons to push with us as well, and this rare earth minerals is absolutely one of their essential for defense products, for batteries, and it's not the minerals themselves, it's the refining capacity, and China has as much as 95% of the world's refining capacity. And so, there's a Defense Department goal to get capacity up online, additional capacity up online by 2027. We'll see if that happens, but I'm glad to see markets coming back. I think we'll ultimately reach a amicable end with the Chinese government, even though they are somewhat of an enemy, but there's just too much money to be had.
Okay, so Jonathan, jump in here because Michael's saying, maximum chaos gives you maximum leverage. Maybe that's what we're seeing today.
I don't know. It didn't feel so great on Friday, maximum chaos, when the market was down, 1,000 points. I don't understand it. I mean, they used to joke about taco, Trump always chickens out. How is this not another one of those examples? It's like Friday, 100% tariff. Sunday, oh no, I was just kidding. Well, I'm an investor. How am I supposed to plan for that? Businessmen are always chided as being short-term oriented. Businessmen are the ones who have to think long-term. Seems like the president is literally thinking day to day, and frankly, it's costing investors money. I mean, on Friday, if you're saying there's going to be 100% tariff on China, you make moves, you make trades based on that. And on Sunday, it's like, well, no, I was just kidding. It just makes it very difficult to be a long-term investor when the government seems to be thinking more short-term than anyone else.
Jackie.
This is not taco. This is how he does it. This is how he negotiates. I think the markets are starting to understand that. How do you prepare when you're an investor? You keep a calm head. So you didn't sell stock on Friday, and maybe you used it as a buying opportunity. Now he comes out on Sunday, he says, don't worry about it, everything's going to be okay. I told you, and this is my personal opinion, when he was talking about the shutdown in the military, and he said, don't worry about it, you're going to get paid. I believe him because I've seen how he does things. This is part of his negotiation process. Now, what's interesting here is that you've got two very strong leaders who know they're not going to get everything that they want. And Trump probably recognizes that internally as well. If he can get some of the things we want, as I've said from the beginning of all these trade negotiations, that's still a win that puts the United States in a better position than it was before. Like he said to Carney in the meeting in the Oval Office, what did he say? He said, I'm paraphrasing, we want the same things. And Howard Lutnick chimed in and said, there's some conflicts here. There are conflicts here with China as well. But if he could score 1, 2 wins, 2.5, however we're going to keep score, they're going to want to get something too. Then, the United States does essentially win. He's not going to get everything. I think he knows that. I think the market knows that.
Dagan.
Friday wasn't about President Trump. It wasn't about China. It was about the turmoil that is emerging in credit, in private lending. There's never just one cockroach that comes out of the work. It's never just about First Brands. It's never just about Tricolor. This is a broad concern about private lending, about credit, about bad credits. We are an economy that functions on lending. We are a credit-dependent economy when it comes to many businesses and particularly the consumer right now. And so the market was already primed, and I'm talking about a whole variety of asset classes, to sell off. And President Trump's tweet, or Truth Social, about China and what emerged as the day went on was the excuse to sell. China has become a much less important part of our economy and our trading relationship since his first term in 2018. The vast majority of our economy is us trading amongst ourselves. We've said that over and over again, but China's importance is shrinking. I understand that rare earth minerals and materials are critical, but to say, Jonathan, that, oh, how dare Trump?
Well, are we supposed to believe him or not, Dagan? When he says he's putting 100% tariffs on China, should I take that as truth, or is that just a negotiation tactic?
If your portfolio is based purely on what President Trump says on Truth Social, then I can't help
Well,
it.
it certainly has a pretty big impact on the market, didn't it? I mean, the moment he posted that truth, stocks sell off.
That's exactly what I told you. If your portfolio is so vulnerable to one Truth Social post, it is about more than President Trump. That's what I'm saying. And I just wanted to note, and we can talk about it as the show rolls on, that the Committee to Unleash Prosperity did an extensive research survey. Brian has it in front of him.
Right here.
About America's mineral reserves, how to unlock our $12 trillion treasure chest. The U.S. is blessed with some of the richest supplies of mineral wealth in the world. The total value of our domestic mineral reserves was estimated at $6.2 trillion about 8 years ago. But we have estimated the higher inflation improved mining tech, it's $12 trillion. Mining these minerals would raise up to $1 trillion in revenue for the federal government. This is Steve Moore and his group, so we can dig into that. But again, it's about us and about putting China on its ass.
Michael, let me ask you this, because Jonathan raises a point. Friday was clearly a down day. There were a lot of investors. I got home, my wife said, oh my gosh, what's going on in the markets today? Okay, but there's a separate question of how do you play that? How do you set yourself up for that? How do you think about that? How do you not have a Trump Truth Social dependent portfolio? How do you think about days like Friday, knowing we often get Mondays like this Monday? Well,
look, you always need to have some cash, right? So you can't buy the dip if you're 100% invested, right? And my opinion is you always have your names that you love, that you're trying to add to. So Palantir is a name that I have ridden, since sub 20. It's now 180 bucks. If that stock sells off to 150 or 140 on an ugly day, here's an opportunity to add to that position for someone or someone who might not have been able to participate in that. We didn't get that sell-off there. Ethereum is on a one-way ticket to the moon. We were close to 5,000. I bought some at roughly 3,700 on Friday. So I use it as an opportunity for crypto because the leverage inherent in cryptocurrency with the futures trading, and I think Coinbase came out with 50x levered futures over the weekend so people could double down and make back what they lost. But cryptocurrency has become your new degenerate gambling frenzy.
So it's a rounding endorsement, Mike.
Well, but the thing is, if you have long-term views on assets of where they're going to go in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, okay, this chaos from a Trump Truth Social is a gift to you. right? And if you have a long-term portfolio, these violent sell-offs, and it's just the way that the market works now, where you have momentum algorithms that will push markets lower. And when markets start going lower, no one panic sells to the upside. So it's always more orderly when the momentum pushes it up than when it pushes it down. So look for these really ugly days and know that it's hard to do it, but this is where you invest, this is where you made money. Because if you look at where we were in the tariff tantrum when Trump said buy stocks, what are we up, 30%, 40%?
Really quickly, Jackie, because Mike just reminded me of this. You look at the moves China's made in the past couple weeks around agriculture, around rare earths. Is Xi getting nervous? Is he making a lot of these moves right now because he feels like his leverage is actually slipping?
Of course. I think he feels like his back is against the wall, and I think that's what the president wants to try to do to people in a negotiation. That's the way you'll get the most out of it. And so I think that he's trying to at least position himself to the world and say, look, I'm not rolling over here. I'm playing hardball too. And you've got two, as I said, strong men, strong leaders that are going to posture in that way until that moment comes when they either, walk out together or it's announced that they were able to find a compromise. Part of this is about conflict resolution. It's about mediation. It's about finding a middle ground. I don't think either man expects to completely get everything that he wants, but to try to retain as much for his country as possible. And so they will both try to do that.
Michael Lee called it degenerate gambling just a second ago.
Well,
I'm not going to.
On to another subject.
I'm not going to embrace that slogan, but I do want to ask you what's going on with crypto.
All right, so let's take a look because it was a volatile weekend. A major crypto meltdown happened over the weekend. We saw a historic $18 billion one-day sell-off following the president's tariff threats. Bitcoin has been able to recover some of those gains. Let's see it there, 115,000 and change. So it's still under that sort of 117, 18,000 mark that would seem to be like a comfortable place it was bouncing around. But again, if you're in the crypto market and you're involved in degenerate gambling, you are braced for very
the views of certain
moves.
panelists do not necessarily reflect the views of the entire
Let me just
panel.
clarify.
I know whose it does, but I'm just saying.
I will clarify that you need to use that degenerate gambling against these people, because if you're a long-term investor, okay, they are going to get blown up periodically. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when these degenerates get blown up, that's your opportunity to enter the market. That was me on Friday afternoon while my family's trying to talk to me. I'm on my phone trying to buy the dip.
Yep.
So it worked this time.
Here's what bothers me. Dog Park. Diamond Hands. Mr. Diamond Hands talking about his 2 Bitcoin are going to be his $2 million retirement.
Oh, he was at the dog park talking about this?
Yeah, I mean,
I am old and I have lived through this more than once. And when Diamond Hands, you know what Diamond Hands is?
I don't. What is it?
Yeah.
That means you just hold on forever.
Right. It's like, you got a diamond in your hands. You can't let it. By the way, guess what's not worth much now? Diamonds.
Right. I mean, and very similar. I remember people in 2000 saying that they were in Cisco and they were in Intel for the long haul, where it's 20 years on now, and those stocks still haven't regained where they were in 2000. So the long haul
Is that true?
Often be a lot longer than people think.
Is that true?
Cisco took it out like a few months ago.
Yes,
a few months ago. Fine, it only took 25 years.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, long haul is 25 years.
How many of those crypto investors are planning on a 25-year holding period?
Well, you know what?
It's a 25-hour holding period for them.
Fellas, if you're stepping up to the altar, long haul is at least 25 years. And we define investing the same way. I do.
Look, I don't think you can rely on Bitcoin for your retirement. I think you should own some if you're an investor, but I don't think you can have a portfolio of 80% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum. Like, that's not really an investing portfolio.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a great idea.
And if you want to be a cryptocurrency investor, you need to periodically dollar cost average.
If you're big swinging diamond hands at the dog park.
Diamond hands.
You can put a diamond on a finger. You can't put a Bitcoin on a finger.
No, put a lab-grown diamond on that finger just in case.
No.
Well,
not here.
That may have to be another segment.
We should
Marriage
actually.
investing. You get it all.
Jackie and I could do a whole hour face-off